What's your position on position? Is it merely a word you know? Is it your North Star? Maybe somewhere in between? This video is about how a positionally obsessed person sees the world, and the flop. I want to show you a couple out of position situations where I've taken the guesswork out of folding. First is folding to a 3-bet after I open, and then folding to a 3-bet after I call someone else's opening bet. Full game, 2-5, no limit hold'em, deep stacks. I open for 20. Someone behind me makes it 70. Everyone else folds and the action is back to me. If I have no ace and no pair, I always fold in this spot. It doesn't matter which position I open from, and it doesn't matter what position the opponent raised from. It also doesn't matter how big or small the 3-bet is, or what my opponent's playing style is, or even if I'm suited or not. If I'm out of position with an aceless, pairless hand, I'm folding. You'd think my decision to see the flop would depend on what I think my opponent's range is, but it doesn't. That's why I can always play precisely and leaklessly in these situations. When I get 3-bet from behind and the pot is going to be heads up, my auto-fold range depends only on my cards. I fold everything except for showdown hands. By showdown hands, I mean all pocket pairs and all hands with an ace. With a showdown hand, I know that if I miss the flop, turn, and river, 2 happy things can still happen. The river can go check, check, and I win, or the opponent might bluff, and I call and win with my unimproved starting hand. Compare that to my river options when I start with, say, 9-8 suited out of position and I don't improve. When the last card comes, I will be first to act with only 2 options, and they're both sad. I can bluff and maybe win, or I can check and almost certainly lose. I've tasted that rancid river water so many times, but no more. Now when my opponent checks behind on the river in a 3-bet pot, my hole cards are always a contender, and that makes me happy. And when I suspect a river bluff, I always have the option to call. I like that too, a lot. And it's never not like this. Because I wait for showdown hands before I play heads-up 3-bet pot out of position, I'm always at peace on the river. An urgent clarification about autofold ranges. When you define an autofold range for a given situation, the remaining hands are your it depends range. With those hands, you might call, you might fold, or you might raise, depending on all the usual variables. The urgent clarification is that when I said that I fold with all aceless, pairless hands and 3-bet pots out of position, this definitely does not mean that I stay in with all aces and pairs. For example, if I open with ace-5 offsuit in the cutoff and the button 3-bets, I have a showdown hand, yet nothing is automatic. My decision to fold, call, or raise will depend on such diverse elements as the range of the 3-better, how they play in general, how I think they think I play, how much beer they've had, how much coffee I've had, and whatever else. Now let's look at some spots where I will call an opening bet and then fold to a 3-bet based entirely on position. Playing 2-5 no limit hold'em, I was in the hijack with 7-6 suited. Under the gun opened for 20. One player called. The cutoff and the button were not loose or aggressive, so I called to 20. The cutoff raised to 100. I put him on a big pair. Everyone folded around to the opener, who called, as did the other player. The stacks were 1,000. The pot was 400. It cost me $80 to call, and I was closing the action. I folded because I was not going to be last act after the flop, and it was unlikely that I was going to become last. Let's rewind to the spot where I called 20 before the flop with 7-6 in the hijack. How often will both of the tight players behind me fold? Let's estimate that at 25%. When that happens, game over. I win. I'm now last to act with a drawing hand in a single raised pot. That's as good as it gets with drawing hands. And it's way better than the only other option, which is to be not last. Now, what's the likelihood that one or both players behind me will call the 20? Let's estimate that at 65%. This path is far from ideal, since I won't be last to act post-flop. But on the flop, if I stay in and the player behind me folds, then I will be promoted to last, and that possibility does have value. That leaves 10% as our estimate of how often the cutoff or button will 3-bet. And when that happens, my strategy is etched in felt. I will fold 7-6 suited to the 3-bet because I'd rather save those chips for when it's my turn to 3-bet in position. And the other reason is that with the 3-better behind me, the likelihood of me being promoted to last action is slim, making the whole situation unpalatable. But give me pocket deuces instead of 7-6, and I will eagerly call a deep stack 3-bet out of position for 2 reasons. 1, flopping sets is more fun than flopping draws. And 2, with a pocket pair, I know I can just close my eyes and ride my starting hand to the finish line if I feel like it. When I'm out of position and facing a 3-bet, the difference between 7-6 and small pairs is huge. I fold the drawing hands and I play the pairs. But on the button, that difference is irrelevant. With sufficiently deep stacks, I call 3-bets with deuce-deuce and 7-6, suited or not, equally often. If you've played a lot of poker, then I assume you have a sense for what the phrase marginal situation means to you. When you're facing a 3-bet and you're out of position, my advice is to fold all marginal situations. Just trust your gut. If you feel uncomfortable calling, that's all the reason you need to fold. Your heart and mind are telling you what to do. If you can't trust those guys, who can you trust? May you fold in peace.